are you having for dinner tonight? What if the reason you didn't know the answer to that question is because you weren't sure what you could afford? In 2014, I was a recent graduate with a master's in public health. I was working for a food justice organization, and I was experiencing food insecurity. A well-educated white woman working in food and wellness, and I didn't always know what I could afford to eat. It's crazy to think that was 4 years ago. Fortunately, I had a really supportive network, and I had access to donated food through work. So my experience was rather brief with food insecurity. A simple definition of food insecurity is a lack of access to enough healthy food. The national organization Feeding America estimates that 1 in 8 people in this country experience food insecurity at any given time. That's 42 million people, 13 million of whom are children. At Harvest of Hope Pantry, where I'm the executive director here in Boulder, we serve on average 140 people a day between our morning program for clients with kitchens and our afternoon program for clients without kitchens. So why do people end up experiencing food insecurity? Food security is fluid, meaning it can change really quickly, especially for those living on a tight budget, which is a population of people in this country who is growing rapidly. The most basic physiological human necessities are sleep, water, and food. We've all experienced hard times, and so we know what that feels like. Anxiety, frustration, anger, worry. At pantries across the United States, we see people during some of their hardest times, where they've come to the conclusion that they need help meeting one of their basic needs. Because we work in the client services industry, we often seek input and feedback from clients. Most recently, we asked clients to tell us how the pantry has impacted them. We then pasted these stories on the back of colorful paper plates so that we could share them with guests at a fundraiser. I went back and reflected on these stories to try and figure out what was one story that I could use that would represent what this experience of food insecurity is like. And I couldn't choose just one story, because it's not just one story. Do I talk about the silver tsunami? This is the increasing number of older adults that we're seeing in this country. And this is also reflected at our food pantry. These are people living on a fixed income, expected to take their medications with food. However, their ability to buy enough good food is compromised by ever-increasing medical expenses and gaps in Medicare coverage. Or maybe I should talk about the two-parent household working to make ends meet when their child breaks their arm and they're forced to rush to the emergency room to utilize their catastrophic healthcare coverage because that's all they could afford. Then down the road, when all the medical bills come in and it's time to buy groceries, they're forced to seek food assistance, because how could you ever ask a parent to choose between feeding their child and medical care for their child? Or maybe I should talk about the person who enlisted when they were younger and served in 2 wars and now experience both physical and mental barriers that have landed them on disability, again with a fixed income. And while none of these stories are the same, there is a common thread of connection. Something unexpected happens. People are forced to make a difficult financial decision, and they begin to struggle to feed themselves or their families. The good news about addressing food insecurity is that it's not a zero-sum situation, meaning we don't have to take anything away from people to give it to others. Oftentimes, when I am at the food pantry, clients will tell me that they're not a regular client. It's just been a rough month, year, few years, and they don't know what they would do without the pantry. These stories make us feel good when we hear them, like we're making a difference in people's lives. But it's really important that we acknowledge that food pantries are not addressing the root cause to the problem. People are falling in the river upstream, and we're standing downstream, to pull them out before they go over the waterfall. But until we collectively, as a society, start to look upstream and ask why people are falling in the first place, we have a moral obligation to be standing downstream with lines of support when they're needed. The USDA estimates that almost a third of the food that we produce in this country is never consumed. Think about all of the time and resources that go into making this food that never has an opportunity to nourish someone. Maybe we go on vacation and something rots in the refrigerator, or we buy in bulk to try and save time and money. But there's no way we could possibly eat it all. Or maybe we just don't really know what the true shelf life of our food really is. Until you're faced with the reality of not being able to run out to the grocery store when you need to, or run around the corner to the fast casual restaurant for a quick dinner on a busy night, most of us don't think twice about throwing away untouched food. So remember that zero sum. This is a perfect marriage of opportunity and need. The opportunity to waste less and to feed those in need. Because I'm nothing if not practical, I want to leave you all with a list of things that you can do to make an impact in this area. With one caveat, you have to call your food pantry before you show up with a truckload full of meat that your cousin Bobby just barbecued. Because food safety is still a thing. So, at the individual level, reach out to your local food pantry. Ask them how you can help. Needs are always changing. And if you're going on vacation, see if there's anything you can bring that would go bad to a local food pantry. At the organizational level, hold a food drive, or consider donating your leftover catered lunches. At the community level, talk to your local grocer, farmer, restaurant, and ask them what they do with the food that's not served or sold, and then encourage them to donate it. And at the state level, get informed and involved in local politics, and ask yourself what the root cause of any given problem really is. Chances are that most of you in the audience tonight live with a food abundance rather than a food scarcity. Our refrigerators are full, we can go to the grocery store when we need to, and we get to choose what we eat. However, it's not unlikely that there are other people here who can't, or who have struggled in the past. There are people next to us every day who don't know where their next meal is going to come from, and it is our privilege to increase our awareness about food access issues so that we can begin to act to reduce food insecurity in our communities. Thank you. Thank you.